name is Enoch, and we are going to revise together trigonometry, specifically finding period, amplitude, phase shift, vertical translation, also sketching the same trigonometry function. So the first question reads, find the period, amplitude, phase shift, vertical translation, and sketch the following. So first thing, you have to know the general form of the trig function. So trig function, that is y is equals to a sine open brackets b x plus c plus what? Plus c d. So from there, the amplitude, that is just the modulus of the coefficient of any trig ratio. So amplitude is equals to the modulus of trig ratio. The modulus, the coefficient of sine, that is a, and then the modulus of a, that is positive a. And then from there, to find the period is calculated by 2 pi over what? B. So if you divide 2 pi by the coefficient of x, that is the period. Apart from that, how do we find the what? The phase shift. Equate the entire thing is equals to 0. What is inside the bracket is equated to what? 0. That is bx plus c is equals to 0. Make x the subject of the formula. You are going to remain with bx is equals to negative c over b. So phase shift is equals to negative c over b. So this is the formula for what? For phase shift. So I'll say phase shift is equals to negative c over b. And then this g that you are seeing there is what we call the vertical translation. So vertical translation is equals to d. So apart from that, since we know all the formula for calculating what? Amplitude, period, and the phase shift, we can go ahead and what? Calculate the what? The questions that you have been asked to calculate. So the amplitude, so I'll say A, the amplitude that is just the coefficient of any trig ratio. Also, so from there, the modulus of 2, that is 2. So the amplitude is what? 2. From there, we have to calculate what? Period. So period is equals to 2 pi over the coefficient of x. The coefficient of x is what? That is 2. So divide by what? 2. When you cancel there, you are going to get pi as what? Period. So this is the period. Apart from there, that we have been asked to calculate what? The phase shift. Phase shift is calculated by this formula. So phase shift is equals to negative. This is the negative. And then you are going to get C is there. So the value of c, that is negative pi over 2, which is negative pi over 2 over what? B. What is B? The coefficient of x. The coefficient of x, that is 2. So there, phase shift is equals to negative times negative, that is positive pi over 2 divides. We are dividing with 2 there over 1. So phase shift is equals to pi over 2 times. Once you just put multiplication symbol, these values they are going to swap each other. You are going to have 1 over 2. So pi times 1, we are going to obtain pi over 2 times 2, that is 4. So this is the phase shift. So phase that is the starting point. Whenever you are graphing, that is the starting point. So from there, since the question is also asking us to calculate the what? The vertical translation. The vertical translation is negative 2. So vertical translation is equals to negative 2. That is negative 2. And the vertical translation. So now I have to move on and start finding the upper limit and the lower limit. How high the graph is going to move up and how low the graph is going to go downward. So let me just grab this part to create space. So from there, we have to calculate upper limit and the lower limit to determine how the graph is going to move up in the y-axis. Also the lower limit, how the graph is going to move below the y-axis. So how do we find the upper limit? So I'll say upper limit is equals to amplitude plus vertical translation. So my amplitude was 2 plus, I'm adding the vertical translation, that is negative 2. In this case you are subtracting, meaning that is 0. So that is how high the graph is going to move in the y-axis. Lower limit is equals to amplitude minus vertical translation. So from there, that is 2 minus 2. That is negative 2. So negative times negative, that is positive. You are getting 4. For lower limits, we made a mistake. It is supposed to be calculated by vertical translation minus amplitude. So vertical translation, we have negative 2. Amplitude, that is 2. So we are having negative 4. So this is our lower limit, upper limit. So from there, we can now start graphing. So points to note is that phase shift 5/4, this is the starting point. Apart from that, how do we determine the ending point? Ending point is equals to what? Starting point, which is the phase shift, plus what? Period. So phase shift, that is 5/4 plus, what was the period? Was it 5? So the period, that is 5. So to get the ending point, 4 times pi, that is 4 pi, plus pi, that is 5 pi over 4. 5 pi over 4. This is the ending point. Starting point, ending point. So from there, let me just grab this part to create the space. So from there, we're going to draw. So the starting point, that is pi over 4. Ending point 5 pi over 4. So to find the value in between here, we are going to add this with that, and then we divide the value by what? 2. So pi over 4 plus 5 pi over 4. Common denominator, that is 4. Here that is pi plus 5 pi, that is 6 pi. So 2 in there, that is 2. 2 there, 3. This is 3 pi over 2. I have to divide this value by what? By 2. That is 3 pi over 2 times 1 over 2. So that is 3 pi over what? 4. So the value in between, that is 3 pi over 4. So apart from that, since I know the middle value here, I can also find the value in between here by adding pi over 4 plus 3 pi over 4. So that is pi over 4 plus 3 pi over 4. Common denominator, that is 4. That plus that is 4 pi. We cancel, we are finding pi. I have to divide this value that I have obtained by 2. So that is pi over 2. To get the value in between there, I have to do what? To add these 2 and divide by 2. That is the common denominator there, that is 4. And then I add 5 plus 3, 8 pi. We divide, we are getting 2 pi. 2 pi divided by 2, that is pi. So this is the value which is here, pi. So these are the coordinates that I'm having. Now, apart from that, I have to write the amplitude. So amplitude, that is how high or the maximum value. So my amplitude was positive 2 and negative 2. So this is 0. Now the upper limit that was 0. Lower limit was negative what?
4.
Negative 4. This is my lower limit. Now to graph, first of all, I'm going to start with the vertical translation. I'm only graphing the final graph here. So the vertical translation, that is where I'm going to draw the horizontal asymptote. So like this. After drawing that, you know to say the starting point is that pi over 4. So from there, always sine graph looks like this. That is for sine graph. So my starting point, where my first coordinate is going to be, that is at pi over 4. From there, it is going to move to the maximum, which is the upper limit. From there, it is going to come down here to the lower limit, which is negative 4. From there, it is going to move to the maximum and then comes back to the asymptote, which is the vertical translation. So if I extend this line and join these two coordinates, it's going to be like this. So now, since the lower limit is negative 4, I can extend my graph like this. Even here, I can extend like that. These values, they can continue going to the negatives, also going to the what? Positive. Meaning, the graph can continue going like that. Also, here to the positive part, the graph can continue going like that. So this one is f of x is equals to negative 2 plus 2 sine, open brackets, 2x minus pi over 2. So this is the final solution for first question.